welcome to this week's YouTube channel. Just a little bit of an intro here before we jump into Lainey and I kind of chatting about our topic today is I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. So as you can see by my beautiful backdrop here, we are talking about trees and the importance of them in our builds, as well as why we as a company prioritize preserving as many of them as we can on the properties that we build on. So unlike a lot of other companies that you may see out there, both commercially and residentially, we don't just bulldoze everything on the property. And we're going to get into a topic about that, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an intro, and without further ado, here's our video. Hey guys, this week's topic is trees, the lungs of our planet.
We're going to get into some fun facts here. So your average mature tree takes in about 48 pounds of carbon per year. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot in a grand scale, but when you get in a yard that has 30 to 40 trees, that's a ton of carbon that it will take away from the atmosphere per year. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot in a grand scale, but when you get in a yard that has 30 to 40 trees, that's a ton of carbon that it will take away from the atmosphere per year. The downside to that is if you're buying a lot and you decide to clear cut hundreds of trees, as soon as you cut them down, all that carbon that is stored in that tree at that time is released immediately back into the air. So at that point, as soon as you cut the trees down, you are actually hindering what we're trying to do to cut down on our carbon footprint. So by cutting those trees down, instead of that carbon being taken out and we're good, you just release that ton of carbon back into the air. Now, some mature trees, they really don't take in that much anymore. They get to a point where they're not as effective anymore because they're pretty much done growing. They're not going to get much bigger, or the amount that they need to take in, it takes years upon years for them to actually consume enough resources and energy to continue their growth. So when you see developments happening and they go into a forested area and they clear cut it, and then once they put the homes back, they put a few piddly trees here and there, it doesn't really work. It's not helping the cause at this point.
And like when you just clear cut all of those trees, especially when a lot of them are older trees, if you think about it, planting a little new one, it's going to do next to nothing in comparison to what that large one was doing. Never mind the fact that, as everybody knows, those trees are home to so many different wildlife that we have as well. So it does really make us sad as individuals and as a company that when we're driving around and seeing these developments, whether they be commercial or residential, they just clear cut everything and we know what was there before. It's just really gets our hearts because we know what we're just taking away. It's just, it's pretty horrific.
Yeah. Sorry. We're trying to do this video and our son keeps interrupting because he wants more snacks, even though he's had a full dinner already. So this is our little blooper for that. So it makes it a little difficult to do videos and have kids that are awake at the same time. We're back. Okay.
Hi, we're back.
Take two.
Yeah.
So getting back to the point, I mean, when you clear cut, there's a lot of variables that we have to take into consideration when we're cutting down trees. We have to look at what kind of wildlife is there. We have to do an environmental assessment, what we're actually taking from it. When you're on a hillside and you see people clear cutting, the trees on a hillside are incredibly important to the structure of the land, because we have a potential client who was looking at clear cutting. We're not sure how that project's going to go at this point, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. However, one of the things that is the issue is that as soon as we clear cut, there's nothing stopping the water from flowing down the mountain anymore.
Wiping everything out.
Right? Because when you think about it, all the shrubs and bushes and trees and the extra foliage that is there is not only home to tons of wildlife, insects, everything that are detrimental to our way of life, our way of living, and our ecosystem.
Yeah.
But as soon as you take that away, there's nothing stopping landslides from happening. So when you look at cities like Chilliwack, where we do have a big flat playground to build on, we also have a lot of mountain to build on. We have to be very careful in how we structure that and how we're facilitating those builds just for that fact. So if you're buying a piece of land and it's got a ton of trees on it and you just want to wipe everything out, this is just a little tidbit of information to maybe take a step back and take a think about it. How could we get what we're trying to achieve without having to remove everything?
Yeah, so one benefit and key factor that you get when you work with us is in partnership with our sub-trades, like our architects and any of those structural
Landscape
engineers, landscape designers. We take a thorough look at your landscape and really look at what trees absolutely will need to be removed in order to facilitate where exactly we want to build your residence. So, but with that being said, when we do remove any trees, we do also still replenish them, but we do our absolute best to make sure that we are keeping all of the natural growth that's there already, because like we've already said, there's so many benefits to doing that. And then part of with net zero building is all of the different factors that we take into consideration are factored into that decision. So where it's going to be your best exposure on your roof for things like your solar panels and that kind of stuff is also incorporated into that.
And that tends to be a huge factor, because if we're doing your net zero build for you and you have a forest behind you, and even if you have a large build that we're doing, we have to be able to get sun on that solar. So whether it's doing a field solar or putting it on your roof, we still do need to make sure that we can get enough solar gain, or using a wind turbine to facilitate renewable energy on the project. So we're not about cutting down all the trees, we're about keeping the environment and the land the way it is as much as we can. But we do understand progress still needs to move, and there are trees and shrubs and stuff that will need to be removed to properly facilitate your build. We just like to have people have an open mind on how we're going to replenish it, because there are certain kinds of shrubs that are fast growing that take in just as much as those trees do. It's just for one tree, sometimes it's putting in 50 cedar hedges for one tree. So that's pretty big when you think about it. So we work with all of our sub-trades and all of our contacts to make sure that we are doing our utmost to bring everything back to where it was, or at least close to where it was before we started.
And jumping back over to Lane's comment about a potential client of ours on the hillside out in Chilliwack, another thing that we have to, of course, take into consideration is the structural integrity of the trees. So if there's certain trees that are dying off, you're worried about them falling and being a hazard, those are, of course, ones that most likely will need to be removed. But again, those are all considerations that we take, because not only our way of building is green and net zero and sustainable, but everything that goes into it and all of the materials and stuff that we use outside of just the structure of the building is a big plus. Well, we have our kids coming out here to bug us shortly, so we're going to sign off.
I think he's trying to lock us out.
Oh, so. He might be, so we better sign off with you guys. But thank you so much for joining in for this week's episode, and we can't wait to connect with you guys next week on our next video.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions or anything that you want us to talk about or want to learn more about, please put it in the comments box, and we'll be sure to get to it and help educate everybody one step at a time with whatever you guys want to learn about as well.
Yeah,
We're
definitely.
here for you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your evening.